Welcome to Employment Connections, and my name is Richard Weather. We are going to start the webinar in just a moment.
Welcome to Employment Connections. In this presentation today, we will be discussing the Getting Hired Playbook. And the Getting Hired Playbook is a partnership between 3 different agencies. Joining us here at the Connect Center today are Tanner Gers from Accessibility Officer. And then we also have Joe DiNero from Helen Keller Services and Marianne Higley. Marianne, sorry, I don't know how to say your name.
It was
From
perfect.
Insight. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. And Tanner, why don't you tell us a little about how the Getting Hired Playbook came about?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lori. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. Means the world to me. If you know anything about me and what I do, you know that I'm insanely passionate about blind people getting jobs. On my LinkedIn profile right now, it says, every time a blind person gets a job, an angel gets its wings. Our vision at Accessibility Officer, accessibility with 2 A's, accessibility, is that the U.S. disabled unemployment rate is the same as the U.S. unemployment rate. And it really took, a village, a strategic partnership between the 3 organizations here, Helen Keller and Insight. I am going to turn my screen reader off, though, because that is annoying. And so really takes a village, right? Strategic partnerships with Accessibility Officer, Insight, and Helen Keller Services. And the Getting Hired Playbook, Lori, to answer your question, all got started after partnering with Helen Keller Services to create the Certified Accessibility Tester program, where we literally teach people how to become digital accessibility testers in a 14-week instructor-led program that's fully remote. And then if you graduate from that program, and you're going to earn a couple certifications, and you're going to earn the opportunity of a job. We will guarantee you a job if you graduate from the CAT program. And what we learned through that process is that people coming through VR, good, bad, or indifferent, and we saw this across the nation because the CAT program is available fully remote across the nation. The Certified Accessibility Testing program is that so many people, maybe north of 85% coming through, just did not have the soft skills, the professionalism, the etiquette, the business acumen, really, to retain competitive integrated employment. It's like, great, you got the skills, you got the job, but now it's in jeopardy because you made a mistake. Now it's in jeopardy because you weren't able to manage your priorities effectively. You couldn't manage your calendar. You weren't joining meetings on time. Your assignments were slipping. You just didn't have what it took or understood a teachable trait that can be taught. You didn't understand how to retain that job. So partnering with Insight and Marianne, the genius that she is, we created the Getting Hired Playbook, and we matured the process of exactly what it takes to understand what an employer is looking for, how you're going to provide value, and demonstrate to them person to person how you're more valuable than any other person, the other 100 people who maybe don't have a disability that are applying for the same job. So that is an overview of how the Getting Hired Playbook got started, and the relationship between Helen Keller and Insight.
Okay, great. So why don't we talk a little bit about what the accessibility, the CAT program is, just so people understand what that 14-week section consists of?
Yeah, definitely. So it is a technical skills-based training to become a digital accessibility tester, teaching you the job, the skill of technically performing this highly technical job. It is equivalent to a very intense graduate college level program that's 14 weeks and instructor led. You're in a group, there's a cohort, group learning environment, and you're on your own. You're doing at least 20 hours per week of very very intense, cognitively demanding work. It requires you having prerequisites, technical skills, screen reader skills, general computer skills, in order to even just get or qualify to be, that you might be a successful candidate for the program. So we take you week by week, module by module, success criteria by success criteria, how to test against the web content accessibility guidelines against 2.2 AA. So that means not just what it means to be accessible for a screen reader, but what it means to be accessible for someone who doesn't have limb function, someone who has a cognitive impairment. It's across all of the success criteria. So it really kind of opens up perspectives and mindsets about what accessibility really means, and then how you can functionally do that job.
Great. So if I'm understanding you correctly, then the accessibility testing it can be separate from the Getting Hired playbook?
That's right. The CAT
Fabulous.
program is essentially a prerequisite. Now you're job ready with the CAT program, right? And then the Getting Hired playbook teaches you how to get that job.
Great. So if each of you could maybe speak on the how does your organization fit into the scheme of the Getting Hired playbook? Marianne or Joe, would you like to?
I guess I will take that since it all starts with us. So as Tanner mentioned, there needs to be a certain skill level before you're even admitted into the program. So at Helen Keller, we assess those skills. So we assess whether they have competent screen reader skills, if they have sufficient their written communication, their verbal communication is adequate to be successful in this program, because it is as Tanner said, like a graduate level course. I could speak to it myself, as I went through the pilot of it, and it wasn't 14 weeks at the time, it was 7 weeks. So,
oh boy.
So it was giddy up, let's go. And so, and I wanted to go through that because I wanted to be able to speak to students about it and really indicate to them, what the expectations are from the program. So we assess the students, and then we hand them off to accessibility officer, who then handles the training.
Great. And so Tanner and Marianne, can you fill in more about the soft skills that get worked on and how your organizations work on those areas?
Yeah, so the way we at Insight, that's NSITE, are partnering with Tanner and accessibility officers, that we pull together the program together with Tanner and then present it. But for us, we also admit not just folks who are currently or have just finished a CAT program, but Insight provides a number of career skills training opportunities across different industries. And so those folks go through our training, and just like in Tanner's situation, the accessibility officer and the CAT program situation, once they complete the career skills training, we need to teach them how to actually land that job. Sometimes it happens in conjunction with another career skills program, but often it's a standalone. And the whole idea behind it is that we basically try to focus primarily on job seekers, teach job seekers how to most effectively employ tactics and strategies that will create more interviews, get them more opportunities for getting hired. And everything we teach is made accessible to screen reader users or individuals with other disabilities, low vision, to make sure that they learn how to use LinkedIn to their best possible outcomes. And the structure is, and I'll let Tanner talk a little bit more about the content, but the structure, it's a 12-week program. We meet every other week for 2 hours in a group session, and in between, everybody gets a lot of homework to make sure they actually put in place what we tell them to do. And it starts with just an initial walkthrough of the profile that they already have which we hope they do. If they don't, we teach them how to build a first profile to get started with. And then we look at a variety of different topics over the 12 weeks to help them figure out how they can use this amazing tool to their benefit. Tanner, do you want to walk us through a little bit of that program?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, yes, thank you. I mean, I don't really have to say much more. You've done such a great job. But yeah, I mean, when people say what is the Getting Hired Playbook, like this is a proven systematic process. Like you do this process, you will source more interviews, you will get more job opportunities. And our students have demonstrated that, which is the greatest feeling of all. But so like Marianne said, we get people started off with an introduction of LinkedIn, social media. Over 90% of businesses that are actively looking for job candidates will not hire anyone without a social media presence, right? Companies want to know who you are, and they're going to do background research on that. How you engage in social is one of the closest ways and mechanisms that they can do it. And so without that, without you having a social media presence, without communicating who you are publicly, if you're trying to get a job, that's going to hurt you. So just talking about the importance of social media and getting students introduced to it, that's number one. You need to be committed there if you're serious about job seeking. The second thing is, like Marianne said, is that we're helping students understand what a first impression means and creating the brand and digital business card that creates the best first impression. It takes recruiters who are looking at someone's resume, it's like less than 8 seconds before they're making a snap judgment. And the same thing is true about your LinkedIn profile. So we help you understand exactly what's important, what's not, and how to align yourself to what a recruiter is looking for the specific job that you want. The next thing is one of my favorite modules, which is the strategy and tactic roadmap development. Students today just have really no clue how to organize goals, the strategies to achieve them, the tactics in order to execute upon the strategy, and then no strategic analysis. How are we monitoring and measuring results? These core skills are applicable across not just job seeking, right? But what happens in their job, what happens across their professional career, their relationships, their children, their education. This is a core fundamental skill that can be taught that, if leveraged appropriately, that alone is going to change people's lives. We just had one student who literally sent me her strategic analysis of her tactics, her implemented tactics against her strategy, and she's noticing the trends already and making adjustments, optimizing the results and the effectiveness. Again, proven method to systematically source more interviews and job opportunities. The next part of the program, I believe, is the strategic network. We help students understand what a network is, what your network is, and why that's important, and then also what a strategic network is, why that's important, and then how to develop your strategic network. And in short, a strategic network, that is the group of people that you're connected to. You can pick up the phone, you can send them a text message. They can do something that opens up the door for you in your life. Who can advance you towards your goals right now? That's your strategic network. So we teach you how to identify that and how to go after it. Next program, the next module, I believe, is about setting up software to help you do a lot of the heavy lifting that really takes blind people a lot of time to do, right? And more specifically, it's job searches, right? Like, why are we spending time looking for jobs and filling out applications? We should really be doing that to bring up jobs to us so we can identify companies that we want to work for that have open opportunities, and then align ourselves to the hiring managers there and put ourselves in front of them.
Yeah, and Tanner, let me interject here. One of the key pieces, a separate module, is actually on thought leadership and marketing. And I think what a lot of individuals do when they're looking for a job is they don't recognize that what you're doing, you need to do two things. Tanner talked about developing your personal brand. Have you even thought about how you want to be perceived by a potential employer? Just let that sink in for a moment. This is nothing nefarious, but this is why you need to be very intentional about how you present yourself in your LinkedIn profile. right? So when I first started on LinkedIn, I did everything that Tanner teaches in the course wants you to do. Nice headshot, facing the camera. I've been in this field of learning and development and leadership development for over 20 years now. So guess what? I'm taking liberties. Now I have a slightly more relaxed headshot, but my tagline and the message I want to send is now really strong on strategy, innovation, and just, leadership. Wasn't that way in the beginning. But think about what you want to present and what jobs you're interested in. And that should influence the way you build your personal brand. And then, like Tanner said, it's really important that you grow your network intentionally, and you do the same with thought leadership and marketing. And one example of a very recent graduate who came in with no LinkedIn profile, and his first attempt was extremely personal, divulging way too much information. It was more like a Facebook thing. And we had to teach him that, no, this is not Facebook. This is professional. He changed it completely. And this man grew his network exponentially. Within 8 weeks, he had over 100 connections and started getting pinged by recruiters saying, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing, what you're posting, how you're advocating for various things. We may have an open position for you. Can we talk? And that is what
That's
Tanner gets
great.
folks to. Yeah.
Fabulous. So what are some skills that someone who is interested in the Getting Hired playbook should already have before maybe discussing with their vocational rehabilitation counselor participating in the Getting Hired playbook? What would be good skills for that person to already have?
Yeah, I think, they want to be job ready. So the Getting Hired playbook is career agnostic, industry agnostic. So let's say someone thinks that they're job ready and they're going for a job, the Getting Hired playbook, we're going to help you uncover the gaps and then identify the bridge to cover it. And, that's a perfect, opportunity for us to recommend a program that Insight offers, right? Which they do have a vast range of trainings that cover these individual gaps like communication or leadership. And that can really help someone get across the line, and that's what it's really about, right? It's like the summation and accumulation of the skills and techniques in order for us to do the job, get the job, and continue to stay competitive within the job. I think ongoing training, if we're, being, myself being totally blind, being totally blind in the marketplace means I have got to crush. And in order for me to do that, is I've got to stay on top of my A game. I've got to be getting training. I've got to be staying ahead of the curve, so that I don't get left behind. And I think that, that's why the partnerships between the organizations and being able to, bring someone through, the Getting Hired playbook and identify exactly what they're meant to do, and help them bridge the gaps, if any, to get there. I mean, it's truly powerful. And I think it speaks to a larger thing, a larger gap in just kind of understanding holistically, where we're at with regards to job readiness baseline, and also a readiness to begin the journey of vocational rehabilitation, right? Like,
Yeah.
where are we at? Where do we start? And then what's the goal?
Yeah, and this is, I think, why Helen Keller is doing such an important piece of all this. This first assessment is really important. And self-assessment is okay, but we're not always very realistic in where we are with stuff. And I'm going to boil it down to the bare basics. If you do not have a computer and know how to turn it on and navigate with that machine, you are not ready for the Getting Hired playbook, or for that matter, for any of our career skills programs. So we typically talk to folks when they sign up for our programs and say, all right, let's do a little mini assessment to see whether this is a good fit for you. And if it isn't, we recommend to VR counselors that those folks get other training first. You need to be pretty computer savvy, because Tanner's going to make you do research. I mean, LinkedIn is not for the faint of heart, even when you're sighted, and it has some accessibility challenges. Tanner will teach you all the tricks and bypass those, but you need to know how to look for solutions on the internet. You need to be able to download an attachment from an email. You need to be able to work a calendar. And you certainly need to be able to work with the Microsoft Office suite of products, because you want to track your progress.
I've got a job right now that's paying $75,000 a year. It's full time. It's salaried position, and you only need your mobile device.
Oh, you kill me.
It said no employer ever in the history of the earth. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, like, work happens on the computer. At least right now in the technological world that we live in, work happens on the computer. So desktop, laptop, mandatory.
Yes. Yeah.
I was just going to send you at least 15 applicants to that job, Tanner.
You know what? My LinkedIn's blowing up right now. I've got like 8,000 new connection requests. That's a lot.
Great. So, how many cohorts have you had, and when did your first cohort come through?
So we had our first cohort actually kick off in January. And so they wrapped up in April. I think it was April. Yeah.
Yep.
And and so we had this is public information. You know, they've given us permission to share. But if you guys, went to Insights or Accessibility Officers YouTube channel, you can see the testimonies of Julicia, Justin, and Jeff, and what their experience was like coming through the program. I can tell you, until I'm blue in the face, that it's amazing. But really, I think even though that first cohort, they'll say, I was a little skeptical, wasn't really sure, but I did the work, and this is what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So could you share maybe a little bit about one of the individuals, of course, not giving any personal identifying information, but, just a little about somebody's journey through the program and maybe where they are today?
Marianne, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, so the gentleman I just mentioned a little earlier, who came with no profile and really a very hard time articulating what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go, also wasn't very comfortable presenting himself, and spent a lot of time applying to every job under the sun. And he came to the Getting Hired Playbook, and we helped him tweak his profile to actually make him really attractive to recruiters. He started posting really powerful messages on LinkedIn, and it got noticed. It got him noticed, so that his network was growing. People were reaching out to him while he was also strategically reaching out and connecting with other professionals in the field. But recruiters found him, and he ended up like I said, after about 8 weeks of the 12-week program, he told us that he was getting about 5 contacts a week that asked him for more information and would he be interested in interviewing for a position. He's had several interviews. He got a job offer. We're now exploring options with him to see whether that's going to work out, whether it's the right job offer, whether this is all going to come together. But he very strategically, as taught by Tanner, just because you got an offer, you are not stopping your search. So just in case anything, before everybody signs on the dotted line, you keep looking, you keep seeing if there's, and then you do research on the company, right? He did all of that. And let me say this, not only we saw a 180-degree turnaround with him and the outcomes he had, but his regional director of his VR state agency gave him a glowing review, and the program as well, to another state VR agency, saying she had never seen anything like this. She could not believe her eyes. And he was not the only one, right? We had another person in that same cohort, same outcomes, exponential growth in networking. He got invited to in-person interviews in his hometown.
Yeah, but the guy that you're mentioning, he's so humble. Like in the
Yes.
testimony video online, he's like, it's like how casual he is about. He mentions like, yeah, I got, like these, I got all these job offers, but they just like required me to drive, like, so he's just like, he's like, he's saying like, hey, I just graduated from this program, and I'm basically turning down job offers because there's a driving component.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can get, because once you see that there's actual response out there, you can get picky. You're not that desperate anymore to take the best first, or what looks like the best first offer. You can really make sure it's a good fit so that it sticks and you have a job for multiple years instead of 6 months when it doesn't work out. And here's the other thing. Within those cohorts, we repost participants' posts. We elevate their visibility to make sure that their profile gets shared in a much larger context. And let me tell you, you want Tanner to repost one of your posts, because then half the world will know it. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think like one of the other cool things was one of the students coming through. You know, we were looking at her experience and her history and such, and she had this like managerial certificate, this training that she had done. And we're like, why is that not on your LinkedIn profile? That needs to be on your LinkedIn profile. So she's on an interview with a hiring manager, gets the job, and gets the job offer on the phone. And then the hiring manager's like, hey, I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile right here. You have managerial experience. You have this, like, you need, actually, I'm going to offer you this job as a manager. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never been on an interview where I've gotten a promotion on the interview.
No, not yet. Great. I mean, that's fabulous. And it really is so much about networking in the world of job hunting. It really, it's an essential skill, and it's so, so important. Looking at the time, I'm going to ask Katie and Richard if they have any questions, and feel free to type into the Q&A or chat any questions that our participants on our webinar might have this evening. And Katie, Richard?
Yeah, thank you, Lori. Great conversation. Just really to the core of it all, to each of you, what motivates you? Why do this? What motivates you to partner, to work on this as a thing for employment? What to the core of this? Why do this? What is
Well,
it? Go ahead, Marianne.
yeah, so a couple of things, right? Tanner mentioned what their mission and vision is, and
Mhm.
Insight's mission and vision aligns very well with that, even though we don't have such a snazzy slogan. But basically, what gets us up in the morning is to get blind and low vision individuals gainfully employed. And we understand that for that, we actually need upfront career skills training. So that is what we do: career skills, leadership. And I will not build a new program when I know an amazing one already exists. So that motivated me to talk to Tanner. And actually, it was a joint colleague in a totally different state who put us together and said, you guys should talk to each other. And it took us about maybe 6 months, maybe even a little more, until we found the perfect program to partner on.
Right.
And we haven't looked back, and we're only looking forward and trying to do other crazy stuff together, because this, in my opinion, you can have all the career skills in the world. If you don't know how to personally brand yourself and go after the right opportunities, you're going to be stuck in that third circle of hell and never make it out of it. That's what
Yeah.
we're
Shout out
Yes.
to James. Shout out to James, you know, someone who's definitely
Yes.
in my strategic network. And, you know, I think for me, what drives me why I'm doing this is because I lived this. You know, I had no clue how blessed I was, how much privilege I had as a white male growing up in the United States. Like, and then you don't know how different it is until you become the difference. And overnight, you know, just seeing the just stupid discrimination and, you know, barriers that I now have because of this thing where I happen to be blind. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, a call started coming in. You know, these barriers, because I happen to be blind. It was like and so I always knew that once I have an opportunity to help someone else, like someone else who's blind, get a job, like I'm going to do it. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't. I would be, yeah. That's what moves me.
And for those of you who either are listening to this once it gets on the YouTube channel, or those of you who are here live with us this evening in our webinar, Earlier in August, we interviewed Tanner for Career Conversations, so I urge you to check that out as well. It was a fabulous
That's August
presentation.
2024.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Timestamp it. Joe, did you want to respond?
I think my answer is going to be kind of in alignment with everyone else. Myself, like Tanner, I'm also blind, and I've walked that path, and I know what it is to see the challenges of finding gainful employment. And what I love about the LinkedIn playbook is that Tanner's alluded to it earlier. When we walk in the door of an interview, we don't get to bring our A game. We have to bring our A double plus game.
Yes.
And because, like it or not, there's a preconceived, notion of a lot of people of what we can or cannot do. And, in many ways, mentally, our resume is, not in that stack with the contenders. So, we have to bring our A double plus game to be in that stack. And the LinkedIn playbook is a great way to, take what we do at Helen Keller and what the CAT program does,
Right.
and then take those, those students, those clients, and take them the rest of the way across the finish line.
This is Richard. I just have to say, as early in my career, 24 years ago, as a rehabilitation counselor, just out of college, I too am blind. Nothing like this even came close to being available, and we often refer people to placement programs where they clearly weren't ready. But this is what we needed 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Well,
Richard.
and
Thanks.
technology has really helped advance things for people with disabilities in a lot of ways. And I cringe when I see things about students only learning to use a note taker, because there's so much more to technology than using a Braille note taker, for example. To really be in the world of work, you need to go beyond that. You need to be using mainstream technology. And I think both the Getting Hired Playbook book as well as the accessibility testing program clearly indicate that those technology skills are very, very critical in the world of work.
Yeah. I mean, Lori, to that point, like I never knew how much cognitive bandwidth is required just to show up to the table. Like just to manage the screen reader on top of everything else is, someone who hasn't lived that just can't appreciate it.
Right.
And the beauty of this program and hopefully every other program we also offer is that you get to practice these professional demeanors in a very safe space. Yes, you have to build those basic skills on how to use a computer, how to run your screen reader and still work through Microsoft Office in some way, shape, or form. Because again, there is no job where you're not going to be using a computer. And so, but doing it here in a safe space where you have somebody who knows exactly the pain you're going through and can walk you step by step through how to navigate using a screen reader or Zoom text, how to navigate a platform like LinkedIn, that's an absolute game changer. And just so we're clear, I wish this program had existed at my kids' high school or college, because then I could have saved myself hours of work trying to help them find a job. I mean, and I'll just come clean also. Sometimes we run a 45-minute Getting Hired Playbook webinar just to give people an idea of what the program is all about. And I have shamelessly invited friends and relatives to attend those webinars to get an idea of what they need to be on the lookout for. And yes, I'll divulge the sad truth that I even told my ex-husband, who's now retired from the government, that it was about time for him to join the webinar and figure out how it's done.
Oh, you got him on the Job Seekers Toolkit as well. He
did.
He doesn't go without punishment. That's great.
Hey, I got to get back at him somehow, right?
Right.
But
I
I'm
like
sure he benefited from it all.
No,
right.
he appreciated it. This is the
Yeah.
thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a key life skill.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Great.
And you're never too young to apply. So sorry, Laurie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so Katie, do we have some questions in the Q&A or in the chat?
I am not seeing any at the moment.
But our
Okay.
audience, you're welcome to ask our fine panelists these questions for yourself or for those you're working with who are considering this. I imagine these are programs sponsored by Voc Rehab.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to answer the question nobody dares ask.
Right.
The
How do you do-
cost of the program for the 12 weeks and all the benefits that comes with it is $3,600. And we help you work with Voc Rehab to get the tuition covered through them. We're between accessibility officer and Insight, we are authorized vendors in over 40 states in the nation. So chances are we have a relationship in the state where you are and can help you secure funding for the tuition.
And do you work with any of the Department of Labor programs that work with people who have disabilities?
We do. We have actually a partnership with the Department of Labor for apprenticeships and internships, and we're trying to figure out a way to make USA jobs a little more accessible for those who want to take the plunge into government work.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost laughed out loud. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a serious challenge. But you know, some of the
Yes, it
programs
is.
we offer have to do with contract management
Yes.
support, which is huge in the federal government. So, you know, yeah. And then we have a lot of corporate partnerships as well, where we can get work experiences set up or internships and apprenticeships as well.
So the internship or apprenticeship, is that part of the program, or is that something maybe that you assess based on the specific needs of an individual who may not have prior work experience, or
It
how does that work?
depends. Some of our programs have a work experience integrated.
Mhm.
Others, our IT programs, we partner with Cisco for those, and we get access through their employment partner to find both internship and full-time positions there as well. I think we have some questions in the chat.
We do, yes. So one of them is asking how, for some tips from people about, they have some blind and low vision high school students who are getting ready to graduate. How can they get started on this journey? What are some tips for them to getting started on the personal branding journey?
Yeah, let me get this in right now. You want to check out the Job Seekers Toolkit, because the very first chapter or the very first course in that set of 5 courses that the American Printing House for the Blind has put together talks about self-awareness, and that's all that is. And by the way, that program is perfect for pre-eds and folks who are just about to graduate and embark on this adventure. I would start there.
And it's also really good, and I say this with some bias because I'm the one who rewrote it, but it also is very good for individuals who may be new to vision loss and kind of reassessing where they are in life.
Yeah, that's the way to start. But then also, honestly, if they can use a computer, we're also age agnostic, right, Tanner? We really don't care how old the participants are, as long as they can use a computer and motivated to actually figure out what their brand should be and what they want to do. Gets a little easier when you have a little more education and maybe experience under your belt, but it's never too soon to figure out how to present yourself in the best light possible that matches your career goals.
Yeah. I think because it's been I look at things a little bit different. I always wanted to get back to work. I knew that was going to be the path, a life that I wanted to live. So, but what's been what I've been made really aware of is that some people just don't want to work. They say they want to work, and they do all the programs as if they want to work, but they don't want to work. And if that's you, that's okay. But these programs are not for you. These programs are gonna be tough. They're gonna be hard, and you're gonna want to quit, and you're gonna feel insignificant and stupid, and like it's just too hard. And it's like, that's what that's what work sometimes feels like, but you can do it. I have memory issues. I'm totally blind. I'm hearing impaired out of one ear. I'm ADD like a mofo. Like, I have all these problems. I'm in back pain all the time. I'm in neck pain all the time. Haggly's up my butt. It's like,
He's talking about me. He called me a genius earlier. He's making up for it now. I totally get it.
It's because I'm late. I'm 10 minutes late, and but all I'm saying is like, I know, like, we all have multiple challenges. I know we have all multiple issues, but like, if you want to work, like, these programs are for you. And if you don't, that's cool too, but this isn't for you.
Yeah, and come back when you think you're ready and you actually want to do this. So how can you figure out how to apply for this program? The first and foremost, find Tanner Gears and Marianne Hagley on LinkedIn and start following us, because we advertise when this stuff is happening, amongst other places, on LinkedIn. The other thing is, if you come to the Insight website, find the training page, and you will see the program application there, and that's nsite.org. And look for the training programs tab and find the Getting Hired Playbook and just fill out an application. Or you can send me an email at M as in Marianne, MHAEGELI@insight.org, and I'm going to put that in the chat so you'll have it there as well. And Tanner, how about accessibility officer?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was not thinking that. I was thinking something else. But yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, accessibility officer, accessibility with 2 A's, accessabilityofficer.com. We have all our vocational rehabilitation stuff there. And you can reach out to me directly, first.last@accessibilityofficer.com. So it's tanner.gers@accessibilityofficer.com.
And along those lines, we do have a question. Is there, what's the age of participants that you accept? Is it?
It's a great question. We want to create a pre-EDS program, like a mini CAT program, a mini GHP. It really is like, so if, whether or not a student is going from high school to the workforce, high school to college, high school to trade school, whatever, like I was saying in the presentation, is that these are fundamental skills that are going to be applicable across any area of their life. We need to have a mini GHP that's pre-EDS. Secondly, if anybody is reliant on assistive technology, or maybe in the future, it's probably a good idea to be the middle person, the value add at that workplace if a digital accessibility problem pops up. If a digital accessibility barrier is the difference between you going to work and you sitting on the sideline, you have the job, and this happens all the time, right? You show up and the digital work environment is not accessible. If you have the fundamental skills to at least speak to accessibility well enough technically that you can guide a remediation, I think that is a critical skill to have to insulate us from losing competitive integrated employment. So, we just haven't had enough demand to stop us and create that program. We want to create it. So, let me know at tanner.gears@accessibilityofficer.com. The other thing I wanted to mention, Marianne, this is where I was going. I remember this is that memory issue. Is September, we'll have the next CAT program starting, the Certified Accessibility Tester program. So if you want to get in there, Joe's skills assessment calendar is filling up quick. So there's that, and the Getting Hired Playbook, Marianne. What are we thinking for that? Am I going to push you to September? Are we going to get a September cohort going?
No, we're not, because I'm going to be in beautiful Switzerland in September. And wait, we're wrapping up cohort 2 in September. Don't forget. So I will lobby strongly for hopefully October, possibly November, but yes, definitely the next one's coming up soon. Yeah.
I'm a menace for even considering September. I'm going to be so wild in September.
I want you all to be jealous.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And Tanner, I took the liberty to put your email address in the chat.
Oh, thank you. I know I was totally poo-pooing on the mobile device. I'm traveling right now. I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm delivering a training here, and I was like struggling to get on my computer. I couldn't get the headset thing going. I was like, I'm gonna have to join from my stupid phone.
Do we have any more questions, Katie?
I am not seeing any at the moment.
So can you kind of explain maybe a little bit about what the content is like? How much lecture time might there be? And, like then, independent time that people would have to spend on assignments, things like that. Maybe
A typical
explain
day, typical
a bit
week.
about that.
Yeah, totally. So we meet every other week for 2 hours in a very intensive guided lecture. It's interactive. I'm engaging students with the material. I'm asking them questions. I'm getting them thinking. We're transcribing and recording all of it. I want them focused, active, and attentive. And then they can review the transcripts and the recordings later if they need to. They also are provided the lecture in of itself that has the homework assignments embedded, that has additional tools like spreadsheets to help them track stuff. So we meet every other week for 2 hours, and then they are spending daily at least some time committed to working the plan. Remember, early on, we developed the strategic roadmap or the strategy and tactical roadmap. We're also giving them assignments right away, like how to put your profile together, how to re-review your profile. Okay, now you know better what you want to do. Now we're going to optimize your profile. So it's an iterative process, and the amount of effort that someone puts in is going to be, they're reciprocally going to get that much out. So I say that the students who actually put in an hour or 2 hours on LinkedIn a day are going to see really, really good results. But, my rule of thumb was always like, if you're looking for a job, then your full-time job is looking for that job.
Oh, yeah,
so
totally.
So
yeah.
just Laurie, to go back to your question, I hate that word lecture because it's absolutely counterintuitive to what we do here, right? This is
Which is
highly
great.
participatory. If you expect to sit there and just consume, you're in the wrong place. We're going to make you talk. You're going to actually do. While we're in class, you're going to be following your navigation while Tanner demonstrates his navigation. Like I said earlier, we meet every other week for 2 hours for 6 sessions, and then we have 2 intense workshops right after that, one each week, to get us through the whole time. And it's
which is really underselling it too, because I'm meeting with the students one-on-one, helping them, answer specific questions to them. Students really confide in me, and a lot of really great conversations and maturation happens in there, and some direction is created. So it's no matter how great a program is, like with the live instruction, that one-on-one mentoring, coaching, support on a regular basis, that's a big difference maker.
And that would be obviously in addition to the discussions that happen.
That's correct.
Yeah. And then we also do resume reviews as part of this, right? So it's really, you get a lot out of this.
Sounds like it's very, very interactive and supportive, which is critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a couple more questions.
Shoot, Katie.
One asking about if you know of any sources available for the individual is from Canada. So wondering if you have any sources available for funding there, and how they could possibly get a tech skills evaluation.
That's a darn good question. Reach out to me, because we've started to work with some of the Canadian authorities that are equivalent to the one in the United States. I'd love to explore opportunities. Every once in a while, we are able to cover tuition through grant funding, but that's usually few and far between. But reach out to us anyway, because we are always interested in finding new solutions for problems we haven't thought of yet.
Great.
We do have, I mean, we have participants from overseas. We had somebody finish our sourcing specialist program from the UK. That man stayed up late every week to join
I
our
bet.
5 p.m. class. But he got a job offer before we even started the work experience, and he credited the digital credential we issued him for getting that job. So yeah, international participation is not a problem for us if we can find the funding.
So the takeaway here is work your behind off, and you'll get something. I mean, like you, Tanner, and said, you know, if you invest into this, you're going to get something out of it, and that's brilliant.
Yes, sir.
Any closing thoughts from all of you?
I just want to say, like, me today, like, even with all of my problems and stuff, like, I would absolutely destroy me 2 years ago. The me 2 years ago would absolutely annihilate the me of 2020. And that's because, like, I'm in this position not because I'm incredible, not because I'm genetically gifted, not because of any of that. Like, it's practice. Like, my community, I used to suck at communication. And then I would just talk and talk and talk and record and listen and get better and remove the ums and ahs, and then figure out how to, like, actually wrap up something, like finish a thought. And you can see me rambling a little bit in this call, right? But the more that you practice, the more that you commit to the skill mastery day in and day out, the greater you get, the greater the outcomes are. I mean, it's exactly what Richard's saying. And don't try to compare yourself to others. Compare yourself today to where you were yesterday. And if it's better, then you're on the right path.
And watch out for the Tanner from 2 years from now. He's looking back at you.
Oh man. He's worried already.
Marianne or Joe, any last thoughts?
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting us. I can't tell you how much I have learned from these partnerships. And I do think we have an opportunity here to change lives. And that is what we're, again, getting up in the morning to do. So thank you all for giving us this opportunity.
And we see your questions about the emails. We'll put them again in the chat. I want to thank our audience and Katie and Lori for co-hosting today's Employment Connections.